of a social art project, Stratygraphia. And now I give the floor to Ksenia Gurin. She's activist and project curator of Stratygraphia. Good afternoon. There is such a proverb that architecture is a music in stone, but I think it's politics in stone. And these scandalous things we can see in Kyiv, this is a result of political activities during last 20 years. I'm representing the website Access to the Truth. This resource is specialized on the information request on the investigation, and the topic of one of our special investigation is architecture heritage in Kyiv. We made few investigations already, and it pushed us to the idea of cooperating with Ksenia Gnylytska, who made the documentation of this building in a parallel way. Also, I want to say that in our projects there are activist practices, a lot of communications. We have education purposes, and why do we want to speak by image language? Because I think this is universal language for the contemporary world, and it allows us to attract the attention of the citizens of Kyiv, of the authorities and officials to our project. And during our project realization, we will look for the ways to save the architecture heritage of Kyiv. Also, we do it for the better coordination of activists and other initiatives. Of course, critics is inevitable in a project like this one. We can't do without it, but the most important is to find the way that can stop the process of destroying everything valuable we are having. I understand there are no simple solutions for complex situations, but at least we will try. And now I would like to give the floor to Ksenia Gnylytska. She's an artist. And also I want to add that I don't believe that the arts is autonomic zone. I like artists who with proactive positions and who are trying to change the situation to the better by their works. And Ksenia is one of them. Good afternoon. Thank you, Ksenia. I can tell you only what I know. I don't tell you anything I didn't experience myself. That's why I will tell you about my participation in this project. From the very beginning, it started like some art in geometry shape. Art in project where I was investigating the ruins, the demolition of the city. And instead of it might be forest or something else, but by making these ruins, I understood that my interest is common with the interests of other people. Interest to these buildings, I mean. I wasn't the only one who was interested in them. That's why I had internal need. Because for the artist, social component is very important recently. And in this way, I'm asking every time, what for are you doing it? And when you contact the reality, the processes are completely different because we have a kind of cooperation at the end. As Wolfgang Goethe told one time, when person forgets, when person stopped being interested in the environment, person loses its memory. And I believe in this expression. And that's exactly what we would like to point out by this project. That by following our own prosperity, sometimes we forget to see what's going on around us. when we are covered by some decorative objects instead. Also, in this time, doing figurative arts, I mean reflecting people narratives, is a problem for me now. As I face the reality, and the reality is much more cruel, truthful, and realistic than the art. And I was trying to transfer myself into some safe format, in some ethnographic format like Taras Shevchenko, buildings, sketches, but I found out that sketches of the buildings and ruins, even without humans, also has deep emotional content in it. My own memories as a citizen of Kiev, and I'm planning to keep on doing it. And in the same way, together with Aksinia, who gave me assurance by giving the list of buildings that are in the register of monuments of municipal significance, and not just municipal but national significance as well. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm very glad I was invited here. Thanks everybody for coming. And it's such a wide topic. My name is Soloviova Maryna. I'm the lawyer and representative of NGOs that was created with the aim to protect and to take care and to renew our cultural heritage, our buildings, our parks, our yards. It all happened from Paysage Alley. All of you know that place. You all know the cat. When somebody was trying to make a high store building there, everybody joined the effort, started struggling, and we won. And after that, we started cooperating with the Committee of Global Heritage UNESCO. For 5 years, we are independent observers already on UNESCO session from NGO side of Kiev and Ukraine. Our main aim is to keep cultural heritage of Ukrainian people and to do everything not to have any ugly building in the buffer zones. And we have some success stories already. As I told you, it's Paysage Alley already. As you know, we made a cat there, we made a yard for kids. It is loved by Kiev citizens and the guests of our city. After that, we won in the court. And I want to tell you that the founders of our NGOs are community activists, MPs now, lawyers, and all other people. Our second stage was to keep the yard on the street on the Goncharova 57. Now there is built yard on this place. After that, we had project at Streletsky Street. Chernovetsky team was trying to make high-store building just next to the walls of Saint Sophia Cathedral. We won this case also, and you could see the faces of the kids on the wall of the building next to it. Also in 2015, we renewed the foundations of the Satina Church. With the help of all Kiev citizens, when they were joined, when they were sending funds into account, especially for the foundation of this church. And we didn't allow them to construct the Church of Moscow Patriarchate on this place. Mr. Yanukovych was lobbying the construction of this church. We stopped the project on design stage, And now Kiev citizens have the foundations of this church, and it proves that Kiev Rus was the first here. It was the first stone church was standing on that place. And also thanks to Miss Vita, we have one more project, the renewal of the fans, lamps and other objects at Paysage Alley, thanks to our sponsor, and also the stairs of Miletsky, thanks to the state funds. It confirms that it's possible to make such project by our own funds. We didn't have any kopeka from state or municipal budget, and after that community authorities believed that it was possible to do something, and now we are working in this direction. We have so many projects ahead. Gostiny Dvor is also one of our projects. We put a lot of effort into this project from 2012 because we wanted it to be the object of national significance. And today we are working with, not with community, but with official authorities to break up rent agreement and to return these buildings to the community and to the country. Also, I can say a lot about Sadyba Murashka. Unfortunately, I can't see Mr. Glukhov here. Also, there is a building with snakes. It's Velika Zhytomyrska Street 32. All of them need our attention. There are attempts to transfer all of these objects into private property, and we can't do it because after that our Kiev can lose our face. But what is the most important now? The most important now is money. That's why construction money is winning. But I'm very glad that we are here today, that we are joining our efforts. A lot of young people want Kiev to be the same as we got it from our parents. And if we can't build something nice, let's just save what we have already and give it to our kids, give it to our grandchildren, to give them possibility to walk the same old streets and old city center. And I'm very glad that you invited me, and I'm very glad to cooperate with you and to consult you on any legal issues if you have some. Thank you. Hello, my name is Kateryna Goncharova. In this project, I'm the coordinator of the Right to the City project. It's very complicated to give a speech after such an inspiring speech from Maryna Soloviova. What is the sense of this project's workshop? The country at the moment is not able to save their cultural heritage. It is a crisis, and it's very complicated to wait that the country in such a destructive stage can save the monuments that are very fragile. They can be demolished very easily just by signature. That's why the conservance of the heritage is a kind, it shows us in a small picture what's going on in the country in general. But any country can save all the objects that needs to be conserved, and that's why there is the issue of finding new resources. New resources, as we can see, there are people who live around, the people who surround it. Because monument itself, it's not museum value. It's not a museum artifact that can't be touched, that can't be walked on, that can't be breathed next to, as old ladies in museum used to tell us before. There are a kind of life object. We need to include them into the screenplays of our life of citizens. And the resources I'm talking about, expert, finance, time resources, we can look for them in these communities. And also the search for tools, how to do it is very important. As I can see, there's supposed to be a partnership relationship, because in Ukraine now the hierarchy is very rigid. The country is on the side. At the moment, at the moment the officials and the authorities are the most important in our community. But it can't be like that anymore, because we need to divide resources, risks, and responsibility. The situation is the following. It's very complicated to speak about it after Maryna, but the situation is the following. The state doesn't want to give resources, but community don't want to be responsible. Nobody doesn't want to bear risks. So the problem is how to build partner relationships with equal partners. And as Maryna told us already, administration can unite with business and everything is fine. But what happened after revolution? Local communities, people themselves, they start asking for their rights for the city, rights to take the decision. And of course, this crisis can't be solved at the moment. We had revolution, but practices are still the same. And our project of this. And the goals of this project is trying to solve this conflict and to define what rights does community have in solving the issues of city landscape. That's why I would like to invite everybody on 17th of April to seminar workshop. It's called Right to the City. It's connected to the cultural heritage issues. Please connect us on Facebook. I will be glad to see everybody.
My name is Mitya Gurin. I would like to thank Ksenia for the organization of this whole project. So its time is up, and I'm dealing with the, let's say, social communications. Also, I'm going to arrange a masterclass on this topic, how those communications can be applied in order to preserve the historical places. This is not we are not the first to face it in Kiev. Let's say we lagging behind Europe 50 or 60 years, and all the major and ancient cities face such a problem. Even Rome, the city of Rome, and there was an idea to use this space anywhere in the over the whole Europe. And when we start talking, we come to understand that they also faced similar problems, let's say, 20 or 30 years back. And they perceived the city as a territory, just as a territory, why we should restore something, because it's rather expensive luxury, let's build something new. We've encountered this problem with the development of tourism over the last 50 or 60 years, which gave a big impetus to the further development of cities, because we are talking about a lot of money, and people come to see something which they have not seen in their whole life, and all of a sudden they understand that those are the buildings of historical importance, and they start to upkeep those. Even if we are talking in Venetia, the boom of tourism over the last 50 or 60 years actually helped us to preserve less, maybe valuable, less ancient monuments of architecture. And I would like to echo what Kateryna said, that we need new practices, a new responsibility sharing process. First of all, why we need that? And unfortunately, it doesn't exist on its own. We need some advocacy on the part of the, let's say, public. And if something is being ruined today, we understand that during restoration and with time passing, this effort will become more and more expensive. We are not far from the CentreUA square. We can understand how this specific facility becomes more expensive, more costly, with as the ages pass by. We understand. We start to see how we are going to where we have to take the funds, some kind of the privileged benefits or some specific line in the budget. We have to understand, but also very important for those who are going to take care of that. They find special interest in doing that, and how the community can actually exert some pressure on the decision makers in order to preserve our heritage. I believe that it was the case anywhere or elsewhere. That's why we can draw from the source of the experience of somebody else's, And there are different branches from lines in the budget. There are some ways how to do that. The big question how we are going to do that, but I have no doubt we are going to do that. Good afternoon. My name is Ksenia Kuleba. I'm head of the Garden City Public Organization (NGO), which deals with the development and creation of the public spaces. In this sense, they have in Europe, in the project, most famous is the Square of the Heavenly Hundred, which is associated with the preservation of historical center or downtown and the protection of the right of the community to their own city. I believe the major things have been already mentioned. What I would like to elaborate on and mention here the experience I acquired while being a member of the contest commission for the chief architect of the city. All the candidates to these very important positions and their strategies and their platforms, they mentioned that it's necessary to preserve the historical face of the city of Kiev. And others, they have this kind of the leading idea, preservation of cultural heritage. At the same time, all of them were talking about investment, the town building, how we should take care of the development of the urban development. And in this sense, the majority of the members of this contest committee had the question, isn't that a kind of populism? On the one hand, they are talking about involvement of investors and the preservation of cultural heritage. On the other hand, they do not try even to resolve this issue physical, so to say. And this is my absolutely subjective thought, but there is no political will to resolve this problem. If the political will were there, then the representatives of the active community experts we could involve the RPR and to create absolutely comprehensible mechanism which could be used in order to resolve this issue or outstanding issue, should I say. And we always try to demonize the builders who would like to, let's say, to dismantle this or another heritage monument and build something new on this on the place of that. And there is a big problem between the community and the representatives of the city administration, but I believe that everybody has to share, to burden this responsibility, and we have to involve everyone in this effort. And I believe this specific project is a good example how the community can actualize this outstanding problem. In the end, I would like to say that all of us, we need to emphasize that without preservation of what is being ruined for many years now, without that we cannot even talk about the further development because, well, I understand this could be the topic of a specific or a separate press conference and what we did in the Hromadske Square when we were talking about the St. Sophia Cathedral, Sophia Kievska. We constantly try to build something new because we know that to build is easy, but to preserve what is being ruined is much more complex task. So it's high time to actualize the topic preservation of the cultural heritage and then switch over to creating new buildings, new facilities, especially we are talking about historical center of the city of Kiev. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Maybe somebody has some questions or clarifications, so please introduce yourself. Olga Goncharova, Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, could tell us more about the project schedule or program where how we can be involved, where we are going to do that. Actually, today we invite everybody at 5 p.m. for discussion, and at 7 p.m. we are going to have the opening ceremony of this specific exhibition. And as we mentioned before, we are going to present different cases of different activists, and we are going to tell a successful story over the last decade. You can find the information on the Facebook page, and it's going to be updated on a regular basis. So my dream, one of my dreams is, as a result of our communication, leads to creating some kind of platform for a working group which will take care of creating something like a roadmap. So I'm tuned to have the cooperation. I believe we can try to achieve that. I understand this is a very difficult task because people are working on that to this end for many years. Sometimes they are successful, but there are some very sad examples, and we are all witness to that. For example, the building which collapsed on the Bogdan Khmelnytsky Street is just one of the first examples, and this could be followed by the collapse of many other buildings in downtown Kiev. This just becomes a very dangerous situation, at least. UCMC, just to follow up of the previous question. Are you going to have some kind of discussion platform where you're going to have on a regular basis some meetings and offer your ideas? Are you going to involve in this discussion the governmental representatives or, let's say, some other figures? How specifically plan to work? You're going to have just a discussion platform. You have a specific roadmap or plan of actions. The minimum program minimum is discussion platform. The plan of actions, if our assumption that it's high time, good time for such initiatives, then we are going to maybe set up coordination council, different ideas, because there are some organizations and initiatives which have not been yet represented within the scope of our project. Of course, it would be nice to involve those as well in our project. Yes, we are going to invite the different officials and politicians in order to find some solution. Maybe we'll need to introduce some amendments in the effective legislation. Again, I can tell you about the investigation by organization towards truth. The property sometimes belongs to the companies which have been registered elsewhere beyond the boundaries of this country, for example, in London. So we cannot change everything overnight or just by snapping our fingers. Our exhibition is going to last till March the 10th. April 10th, excuse me. This is going to take place on the territory of the Vizhinskaya 32 Art House Gallery. All the contacts, all the information is contained in our Facebook page. You can follow updated information. I believe some of the meetings will be added to what they have today. Just a few words to add. We have a very big time process for the chief architect of Kiev competition contest. You must know about that because some scandals associated with this process, and Jenny is member of that commission. And the most important experience we acquired that the topic of the city, strange as it might be, is a kind of uniting topic. And the request for a normal and high quality European city with a normal situation, we are talking about the historical monuments, is kind of it's shared by everybody, and everybody, politicians or gangsters or ordinary people, they want to live in normal city. If we're talking about what's going on now, our discussion platform is required in order to implement our plan. When we see how people start to talk, at the very beginning we can see some of the opportunities which emerge or surface when we start to talk about that. So my opinion is very positive. I believe that in the process of the master classes we'll see new people, new ideas, new practices. We understand that we are living through a turbulent situation when our country is bankrupt and the city is bankrupt, and we expect that also to expect that all the officials and the politicians will just leave everything and try to change the situation with the city. But we have some kind of a community which can actually take care of that, and this is, let's say, the jumping board for the future. I would like to follow up. I hope very much that maybe we'll be able to involve politicians from Verkhovna Rada, MPs, and also at the legislation level we have to to push through the responsibility for damaging the historical monuments. And maybe we'll be able to do something in order to have an opportunity to return to the communal property, communal ownership, or maybe national ownership, the historical monuments. For example, the building with dragons and snakes, which has been mentioned, it now belongs to a private person. It's on the sale now, but it's being brought to such a the dilapidated situation when my heart breaks down when I see that. Not only the penalty must be introduced, maybe there must be some kind of legislation provision to take this, in such case, the building from the private ownership and give it to this urban or municipal property. Thank you. Also, I would like to add some new words about the legislative initiatives. Perhaps you know that they are working now about the draft law on the preservation of the real estate, which is a historical heritage. I believe that today we have a rather serious movement regarding those initiatives and draft legislature, and we'll have to choose among those and somehow to generate the single document. What I'm talking about, they believe that the more serious are the sanctions, the better the legislation is. I believe it's not really correct understanding. I believe that what belongs not only one owner but to the community must be preserved by everybody and protected by everybody. But we do not have the practice of, let's say, bonuses, or let's say some kind of remuneration when partnership, when different participants actually participate in this project on some kind of the share basis. And this must be also taken care of. We cannot punish everybody. For example, 80-year-old lady who actually inherited some monument, historical monument, she just doesn't have money or opportunity to do something about preservation of that. That's why this idea of the trying to involve everybody in the kind of some kind of remuneration or, let's say, a bonus system must be introduced as well. It seems to me there is an experience in Russia, some experience in Russia, when the building the national local importance can become the one of the lots in the tender or the auction where anybody can participate for a period of 49 years. If a person would like to have this building, he has to sign the document with certain terms and conditions. For example, this person has to undertake within 3 or 5 years, she or he has to restore this building and be it used as a restaurant or museum or just a residential house. But as soon as this building is commissioned, not after reconstruction but after restoration, that this building has to remain in the same condition which it was in before the auction. For example, a person can spend 100 hryvnia per year. Persons are going to come to that building, use it, but it is going to be preserved for the next generation. So it's going to be leased out, but there are different mechanisms how, which can be used to preserve this kind of cultural or historical heritage. And thank you. I would like to say that much attention is riveted to this issue by the professionals. Since, for example, when we have the list of the journalist investigations, I was looking at certain buildings and they tried to select the most conspicuous one, so to say, as being an artist. But sometimes we do not notice in such buildings as in Bogdan Khmelnytsky Street, where the ground level was used for the different stores or restaurants or whatever else, and on the next level there were some tragedies going on when I'm talking about the Lassell case, where the collapse, the building. We have to think about different buildings and for the profile they can be used for. Another idea I would like to voice here, a very cool and very graphical project and went to the Ksenia's pictures, it's not just more than just a facility. There is another very important issue about which we being the public activists, sometimes we forget about that. All our projects, and the majority of them, are targeted at the professional audience to get together activists, or let's say the officials, the grammatical clerks, etc., etc. But we reach such a stage when let's get acquainted with each other and start to trust each other. But there is another very important thing. Ordinary people of the city, citizens of the city, have to be involved in this process. Maybe they have to understand that it's not no treasure when somebody tries to use historical building for the purposes of museum or restaurant or store, whatever else. This is not something terrible to do. And they say no, let us be ruined to the earth. Then, because if it will be used for some commercial purposes, or when there will be private owner, it's a bad idea. Even it belongs to the state, it's still a bad idea. So if we use some foreign practices, and we know that in some other countries it's a normal thing to use such old buildings and to house some restaurants or some other projects. I believe if this project contains some kind of artistic component, this must be the language understood by everyone. When the self-dilapidated or ruined building is well depicted by artists, this is already a very good, let's say, mechanism to draw attention to somebody to that problem. Also, this is not the problem faced by the city of Kiev, but also by other cities in different regions and districts. So maybe next stage, this initiative has a very promising idea, and the further we move, the more interesting it's going to be, and it's important that we have kind of document all those things, not only taking pictures using the photo camera, but also depicting put them on the canvases or on the paper. I understand that this is a difficult task, but I hope that we are going to have the common, to find the common ground and common language. And we have time for the last issue. I have two short questions. Let's say, the summing up, we're talking about exhibitions of tonight. You're going to have the photos or the pictures of the facilities and buildings which need immediate restoration. No, not only we are going to have the graphical pictures of Ksenia. You'll see the video project of Alina Kubenko, which is called Other Citizens, about the, let's say, abandoned houses and what's going on there. But the majority of the works of Ksenia, she depicted those buildings which required immediate restoration, or some of those which have been have collapsed already. And your masterclass will deal with the mechanism how to convey this message to the public at large. We are working the program, but we have a very clear idea. The matter is that our community after the revolution, they recognize their subjectivity, but no new practices have appeared. And we have to call spade a spade. All those processes of over the last 2 years, they're called political process. This is a reality. In this case, it's clear that the word politics, which means the attitude between all the members of the society, between politicians, the electorate, and between the urban citizens, all these conflicts of the relationship means politics. But to us, Ukrainians, this is a toxic word, because we already tried to think about some parties in some, let's say, meetings in the Verkhovna Rada. My master class is going to be dedicated specifically to the fact that we have to build our relationship, we have to learn how to act, how to trust each other, and to agree upon something. We are going to move towards Europe, and I hope we are not going to stop on this road. We have to know how to exert pressure on the authorities. We have to have knowledge of how to agree upon different issues, and this is something which is possible to do. We just have to exchange those practices, and we have to teach people how to use those practices. And what we have been doing over the last 2 years, we have been doing that not for ourselves but for everybody. So we have to involve everybody. We are going to have another master class about the access to the public information targeted upon the urbanistic practice and architecture, and all those willing activists who will to do that and who deal with those issues they have to know how to do that. The law is in place, but there are some nuances about how we can apply this law. We have to understand what kind of information we can receive, what not, how to generate the requests, and what are other instruments of communication with the authorities. What is the difference between the claim, the complaint, the request, application, etc., in which cases we can summon the public hearing. So there are some different mechanisms in place. You have to know how to use those or apply those, and there is some kind of dissatisfaction on the part of the public with something they face, but they have to learn how to reconstruct it, which is important. Summing up, I would like to do the first, I'm going to offer the first present. We have the special booklet about the cooperation signed by some of the public initiatives in Paris. They published already our landscape alley, or paysage alley, it's called in Ukrainian. They actually published that in French, and with all the cats involved, etc., etc. We are going to have international cooperation as well. Thank you, friends.